The kind of guy who keeps receipts, literal and emotional. I don't like loose ends, half-finished stories, or promises that evaporate when the weather changes. So when my fiancée, Leah, stood in our kitchen 3 weeks before our wedding and said very calmly, "We need a break," I thought I misheard her. "A break?" I repeated, like I was trying the word on for size, and it didn't fit. She folded her arms across her chest as if bracing for a wind. "Just a few days, maybe a week, to clear our heads. The planning has gotten overwhelming." Our apartment was a museum of wedding prep, ribbons curled on the counter, place cards drying on a tray, a stack of RSVP cards like a deck of guilt. I stared at the whiteboard with our timeline scribbled in red. Rehearsal dinner, next Friday. Ceremony, the Saturday after. Leah, a break is what you take 6 months in, not 3 weeks before walking down the aisle. "I know," she said, eyes glossy but steady. "But if we don't step back now, we'll carry this stress into the rest of our lives." The narration should be the understanding partner, the adult. I remembered what our couples counselor said about breathing instead of reacting. So I inhaled, tasted coffee and doubt, and said, "Okay, a break." "What does that mean?" "Just space," she said. "I'll go stay with Katie for a bit. We won't see other people. We'll still text. I just need to quiet the noise." "Okay," I said again, like I was signing for a package I didn't order. She took an overnight bag and left before dinner, the door closing so gently it felt like a lie. The first night, I slept on top of the covers, phone in my palm like a lifeline. I texted her, "Love you, sleep well." She replied with a heart and, "You too." My chest loosened. It would be okay. It had to be. By day 3, the silence got heavier. She stopped using our shared Google Drive for last-minute vendor updates. The florist emailed me about final payment because Leah's card didn't go through. When I called, Leah said her phone had been glitching. Everything was fine. She'd handle it. It was her voice, soft, familiar, that kept me from connecting dots I didn't want to see. The dots, as it turned out, connected themselves. On day 5, our building manager texted me a photo of a delivery. 2 oversized suitcases, pristine, sitting outside our door. "Know you're out of town soon," he wrote. "Should I put these inside?" Out of town? I wasn't going anywhere until the honeymoon. I zoomed in on the luggage tag visible in the photo. It said Leah Monroe in her careful print. Underneath, a sticky note with a flight number and a date, Saturday. That Saturday. I felt something go very still inside me, a horizon line in my chest. I called Leah straight to voicemail. I told myself her battery died. I told myself Katie's apartment had bad service. That night, I went to Katie's. I stood in the stairwell, rehearsing a neutral tone. Katie answered after too long, hair in a messy bun, eyes guilty in a way that was unmistakable to anyone with siblings or a conscience. "Hey," she said, too bright, "Leah's not here." "Is she out?" I asked. The narration should feel like a personal confession, intimate, raw, and authentic. Add subtle pauses for tension during shocking revelations or betrayals.
Keep the pace natural and storytelling-like, as if someone is sharing their deepest secrets directly with the listener. The overall mood should balance drama, suspense, and relatability, drawing the audience into the story. Katie lifted her chin like someone about to jump. She left this afternoon. Where? Ben's, she said, and once the name was in the air, it burned like a flare. Ben, the ex, the one who broke her heart at 23, who came back every few years with apologies like daisies in February. We had an understanding. Past is past. She had shown me the old messages once, the ones that started with, "Hey, you," and ended with ghosting. I had watched her delete his number like a ritual. I stared at Katie. She went to his house? Katie swallowed. He's housing sitting at his cousin's place while they're away. She said she needed to talk to him about closure. The word was sour in her mouth. Closure. The last refuge of those who want to reopen a door. I drove to the address, a sleek townhouse near the river. My pulse thudded behind my eyes. I told myself I wasn't the kind of man who makes scenes. I told myself I was there for answers, not war. There was no car in the driveway. The lights were off. I stood there with my knuckles hovering over the doorbell, feeling ridiculous and cheated, and strangely old. When I got home, I did the thing I'd avoided doing since we agreed to be adults who give space. I logged into our joint travel app. We'd used it to plan the honeymoon, to store passport scans and check-in times. Her profile had a new trip. A weekend in Asheville, 2 passengers. The hotel name had that boutique ring to it. The second passenger's name had been removed, but the frequent flyer number attached to the booking wasn't Leah's. A quick search revealed the owner. Ben. In the notes section, because Leah is the kind of person who keeps lists, there were reminders. Pick up the ring box. Talk about returning mine. Don't forget sunscreen, lol. Tell mom after. I stared at the first 2 lines so long the words lost shape. Pick up the ring box. Talk about returning mine. When the phone finally rang, I almost didn't answer. But the part of me that still believed in us did. Hey, Leah's voice came through, airy. How are you? How am I said. Tough one. Did you want the short version or the part where I found your flight to Asheville with Ben? Silence. Then a soft, unhelpful, Oh, I laughed, and it came out wrong. Also, the part where you left a note to return your engagement ring. Should I meet you at the store? Do they have curbside betrayal? Please don't do this, she whispered. I was going to tell you tonight. You mean after you got back from a test drive honeymoon? I was pacing the kitchen now, stepping over our seating chart like landmines. Why bring the ring box? I wanted to see how I felt, she said. Ben reached out. He said he's changed. He left because he was scared back then, and now he knows what he wants. I haven't felt certain about anything recently, and except the certainty to lie to me, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It had that flat quality that scared me worse than yelling. We were 3 weeks out, Leah.
You didn't ask for space. You built a bridge back to your past and called it clarity. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, cliché by cliché. I just needed to know if I was getting married for the right reasons. Then why didn't you take the ring off before buying airplane tickets? I said. I looked at my hand, at the naked finger that would now stay naked a little longer. She started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you with him now? She paused long enough to answer the question I didn't ask. Yes. I closed my eyes. I could picture it. The knock-kneed apologies, the vintage records. The way Ben would look at her like she was a story he'd almost finished once and had to reread. I swallowed the urge to demand she come home. I swallowed every braver, pettier impulse. The narration, I asked, "Do you want to call the wedding off, or should I?" "I think we should cancel," she said, exhaling in relief. "Okay," I said, and hung up before the silence got any more crowded. The next morning, I woke with a headache behind my teeth. I called the venue, the caterer, and the photographer. I learned a lot about non-refundable deposits. I learned that people in the wedding industry are compassionate professionals who carry a first aid kit for broken days. I also learned that revenge gets dressed faster than grief. I drafted a text to her parents explaining exactly why their beautifully planned weekend would now be a quiet one. I sent a screenshot of the travel app to Leah with a caption, "Your bridesmaids might need to know about sunscreen." I wrote an email to our wedding website list because transparency felt like a torch. We're calling off the wedding. Life is messy. Please be kind. Then I stopped. I thought about the faces of people who loved both of us. I thought about how stories travel, how they change shape, how mine could become the one where I turned a private heartbreak into a public bonfire. I deleted the text to her parents. I replaced the email with, "We are postponing the ceremony. Thank you for your love and support." I didn't say why. I didn't make Leah a villain for people who weren't in the room. What I did do was pack her things. I put the ring box on the kitchen table. It looked strangely small in all that light. I wrote a note that said, "Please leave the keys." Then I took a walk to the river and sat among strangers who weren't getting married, weren't getting divorced, weren't anything I could see. The water looked like slate. That evening she came by while I was out. I knew because our smart lock shows entries. When I returned, the ring lay inside the box like a sleepy moon. There was a letter. I read it, standing up. The narration, she wrote about fear and familiarity, about how Ben made her feel 23 and fearless again, how I made her feel 30 and safe. She wrote that she was sorry for the order of operations, for creating a decision first and a conversation second. She wrote that she hoped I could someday remember us without flinching. I poured whiskey and stared at the skyline. In an alternate universe, we were packing for Bali. In another, we'd never met. In this one, I was a man with a quiet apartment and a heavy calendar. 2 days later, a mutual friend sent me a photo of Leah at an airport. I muted the thread and turned my phone face down. Closure is marketed as a destination, but I think it's a practice. In the weeks that followed, I returned the tux, called my therapist twice a week, and started running in the mornings before work. I learned the precise weight of a betrayal.
It sits in your pockets like smooth stones, and you take one out at a time and skip it across the day until your hands are empty again. I kept the deposits I could recoup in a spreadsheet, because that's who I am. I called people one by one and said it didn't work out, but I'm okay. Each time I said it, it felt more true. Ben and Leah posted a photo eventually. A sunlit porch, her head on his shoulder, their grins wide and brave. I wanted to hate it. Oddly, I mostly felt tired. The comments were full of hearts and exclamation points. People see what they want to see. As for revenge, I found it had a short shelf life. The versions I imagined, telling her parents, emailing her boss, forwarding flight confirmations to the group chat, felt thrilling for about 30 seconds, and then left a residue I couldn't wash off. So I chose something else that felt like an adult act of violence. I let it be. I didn't attend the bonfire. Months later, I ran into Katie at a coffee shop. She hugged me like someone hugging an apology. She moved in with him, she said, eyes searching mine. I don't know if it's permanent. I hope she finds what she's looking for, I said, and meant it more than I expected. Kay bit her lip. You deserved better. I smiled. I deserved different. Better is a story we tell after. On the way home, I passed a jewelry store and looked away, the way you look away from an ex you see across the street. Not in fear, but to be kind to yourself. I thought about that ring. How heavy it had felt when I first slid it onto Leah's finger. How light it looked in the box alone. Love is like that. Weight changes depending on who's holding it. The narration, if I'm looking for a moral, I don't have a tidy one. I can tell you what I learned, though. Breaks are not bridges. They are doorways. And people will choose which way to walk. Trust isn't a lock you pick open. It's a room you build together. And some people only like the scaffolding. And me? I'm still the guy who keeps receipts, but I don't keep score anymore. Some nights I rehearse what I'd say if Leah ever calls. I think I'd keep it simple. I hope you're well. I'm okay. Thank you for showing me, before vows and witnesses, who you were still willing to be. Because finding out 3 weeks before the wedding is merciful compared to 3 years after. I'm not a hero in this story. I'm just the narrator. And sometimes, the bravest thing a narrator can do is stop telling the version where he wins and start living the one where he heals.